Hey everybody, wanted to let you know that my new book, Hometown Titan, Build a Local Business That Dominates Your Market, is now available on Amazon and has already hit the bestseller lists. We're going to be coming out with Audible soon and hoping to get it into some bookstores, but it would mean the world to me if you went out and got your copy here today, because in this book, I tell never before told stories on my 12 plus year journey in the moving industry. So go get your copy today. Hometown Titan, Build a Local Business That Dominates Your Market, and tighten up.
Something that's resonated that we've implemented recently is this declutter promo. There are mover athletes. Our mission statement is to be the team that mover athletes want to play for. So contrary to what some folks would think, it's not about the growth, it's not about the revenue. It's starting with taking care of our people and making sure that this is a place that guys want to be at. We now have about 15 VAs in the organization spread out through every department. From the onboarding training, which again we utilize Trainual a lot for. They're all part of their respective departments. You have the safety VAs, the accounting VAs, the operations, client experience, commercial VA, and everyone's in their own department answering to their respective manager.
When movers ask me which CRM to use, it's a no-brainer. I've used Smart Moving the last 4 years, and I recommend it to everyone. Once I got my hands on Smart Moving, there was no going back. It was like using an iPhone for the first time. Clean and simple, yet powerful enough to be the centerpiece of our entire business. We're firing off sales follow-ups. We've got automated email campaigns going out. We're dispatching crews out of multiple locations. I run reports and look at KPIs daily. Smart Moving is really tailored to operating a moving company at the highest level without the bugs and glitches I've seen with other softwares. If you want to grow, Smart Moving is the software for you. It even scales as we open new franchise locations. This keeps everything centralized so our teams can field leads, book moves, and operate just as efficiently from anywhere. Check them out and use my link at smartmoving.com/Wade. That's smartmoving.com/Wade to get 1 month free. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. I'm your host, Wade Swikel, and today we have a guest that I met on a ski trip a couple of years ago with some of the OG moving titans out in, I believe it was Park City, somewhere out there. But today's guest is Josh Durhill, and he is the owner of Muscular Moving Men. Muscular Moving Men is a pretty large company, 8-figure company with 20 trucks on the residential side based out of Phoenix, 15 tractor trailers on the long distance side, and then they also have a commercial location in Washington, D.C. He also has the name of his commercial division is M3 Commercial Moving and Logistics, and they've recently started in the restoration space with Elite Contents and Restoration, which is something that we've been trying to get into a little bit more with our main moving company and doing pack outs and working with restoration companies. So excited to talk about that. But they do about $13 million a year in residential and another 8 to 10 in commercial. So over $20 million a year in revenue. Great size company. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I understand this is your first podcast.
Yep, happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Wade. And 17 years in the business or so, but never not a big technology guy, unfortunately. So first time doing a podcast.
Well, you clicked the link and you're here today, and I'm honored to be the first host to have you as a guest. So I guess, if you've been in business for 17 years, I'm sure you've pretty much seen it all. Kind of walk me through your journey getting into the moving and storage industry and what your growth has looked like over the last 17 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm from Scottsdale originally, still live in Scottsdale. So know this market out here pretty well. I met my childhood best friend at the Boys and Girls Club, Justin Hodge, who ultimately, was my best friend in high school, was the guy who we posted a Craigslist ad with in 2008 and did pickup truck and trailer moves together, going to local furniture stores, doing their deliveries, ultimately buying our first moving truck, doing every move together. So that's where it kind of started for us, was just a side hustle type deal. I was working as an insurance adjuster from the time I was 19 to 23, 24 or something like that. And then ultimately took the entrepreneurial jump. Never foresaw this really happening. Justin worked in 2 men in a truck for his college job. So we took some of that expertise and our friendship and our willpower, I guess you could say, and just started into a business. And that started in 2008. Skip ahead 17, going on 18 years now, and you've certainly been through some experiences and seen a lot, know some, don't know nearly as much as I'm going to at some point, though.
That's right. It's a continuous journey of learning and self-discovery, and just especially with today's landscape with technology rapidly evolving. And it's so funny. I mean, that's almost exactly how I started around the same time, a couple of years later, but posting Craigslist ads. I needed a job as a college student and would just post job ads on there for looking for any kind of general labor, and started to get a lot of calls to load and unload U-Haul trucks and Penske trucks. And here I am today about 15 years later. So it's funny how, that seems to be a common way people started, for people that kind of started in that 2008 to 2012 period, when we had that weird transition between like the yellow pages and Google, and then, the kind of the birthplace of the online classified sections. What were some of the, first couple years like when you were posting on Craigslist, going out and doing some of this work with your partner who had some moving experience? And how did you ultimately get off of the Craigslist posting? I don't know if people are still using Craigslist these days, but I know we did for several years in the beginning.
Yeah, God bless Craig. I don't even know if he still has his list going, but it was a good starting place for us. So, coming from a corporate America, insurance type background, I had a good young man's understanding of what structure kind of looked like, and I blended that with Justin's background of working at his dad's paint and body repair shop and having a small business attitude of take no prisoners, and you can't take no for an answer. And so it was a good starting blend, but just grassroots, going into different furniture stores, handing out business cards, everything pen and paper, buying our first moving truck and maxing out a credit card for $10,000 at the time. And then, promptly taking that from Phoenix to Lake Arrowhead, California, which is a very steep incline. And this old hunk of, was falling apart all the way. So that's where we completed our first long distance move. But, hiring our first employee, first office being out of my condo, and just parking our 1 or 2 trucks at a nearby storage facility, and then ultimately transitioning into our first office there, which was pretty cool, and parking a few trucks there. And I think we're the third or fourth rendition of office in now, which we still lease. And now I guess one of those big moments, 17 years, and now we've acquired 5 acres of land around the corner from where we're currently at, and so we're currently in the process of building the first building that we're going to own, which is a design build 70,000 square foot building, which we're really excited about. But between Craigslist and now, just a lot has happened between then and now. And I think the question was, how did we get off Craigslist? So I think certainly just being diligent about reaching out to folks. We did a lot within the real estate brokerage path, and making those relationships and being official partners and nurturing those partnerships with real estate brokerages. So we did pretty well there.
Yeah. So a lot of word of mouth once you kind of started to get some experience, service some clients, and, word, I'm assuming, just kind of spread over time. How long did it take before you kind of got off of Craigslist and that word of mouth started to really start turning the dial for you?
I would say by probably like year 4 is where we're, really starting to see some traction and really starting to build some kind of, other office staff, some resemblance of a structure of somebody outside of just Justin and myself. So year 4, year 5, we're really starting to make some headway, starting to, probably get into that $2 to $3 million revenue type realm. Somewhere in there.
So it took you how long to get to your first million? I want to take a second and tell you all about Tighten Up Training. As a co-founder, we've spent months and months and months and a lot of money pooling together resources from some of the best moving companies in the world. And we're excited to bring this to an online platform available to any mover to use at an affordable price. Tighten Up Training has over 200 videos, including mover training, your highest turnover position, so that you can reduce claims, streamline operations, give your team the tools to perform at the highest level of service that generate repeat and referral business and allow you to charge higher prices, as well as sales training, marketing training, business development, leadership. We're adding more content as we speak. We've got legal training in there. We've even got door-to-door training for the moving industry, thanks to Lenny Gray at the Moving Titan Retreat. We've seen a massive explosion of moving companies jumping on to Tighten Up Training since the last retreat, and people are loving it. And when you sign up and mention this podcast, we're going to give you a free 6-week onboarding course in order to learn how to hold your team accountable and get the entire team on the platform so that you can have the best off-season and summer season that you've ever had. Ideally, the best 2025 that you've ever had. So go to tightenuptraining.com, schedule your free demo today, and look forward to tightening up.
I want to say the first million in revenue was by year 3. Yeah, it was, if I remember correctly, and we have this up on a wall somewhere, but it was like, the first half year, because I think we actually started in May of 2008. So, there was like 50 grand or less year 1. And then it was like, 250, 750, and maybe 1.3, something like that.
And were you doing any other marketing like postcards, or did you get, SEO starting to get going on, or pay-per-click, or even the Yellow Pages, I guess, would still have been sort of relevant back in 2008. Like what other marketing did you do? Or was it all mostly word of mouth and building those relationships in your community to get you there? Because 3 years to get to $1 million, especially back then. I mean, today, I feel like there's a lot of resources where companies can follow a playbook, but back then there weren't a lot of resources for moving company owners and a blueprint. I mean, unless you had the good fortune of finding a good mentor and then them instilling some secrets. But I know it took us, I think, 5 years to get to $1 million, and then we stagnated for a little while. What marketing were you doing in those early days, and then what have you gotten into since then?
Yeah, that's actually something I haven't thought about in a while, to be honest. So it's funny when you bring up SEO, because I remember a couple specific meetings with folks, and they're the SEO. I'm like, SE what now? And so, I mean, because it was so fresh. I mean, now it's everyday terminology: SEO, PPC, Google, this, that, and the other. But it is like 2008, 2009. This was very fresh, and a lot of people were peddling it, but you didn't know what to believe. You just knew it was the new hot thing. So I think we did some, in SEO and some online, but I would say where we really, put a stamp on things was, the word of mouth and previous customers, which started really kicking in by year 3 or year 4, when some of these people, start to use you again, and we start to have some kind of reputation starting to be built up. But I think this was also the benefit of partnership and having a partner whose skill set is different than mine. I'm operationally inclined. I'm an introverted guy. I like to be in the system and tinkering with how we make the product. And Justin is an extroverted guy, wants to be out of the office, making relationships, kissing babies, and doing that kind of thing. So he, is really good at, reaching out to real estate brokers and, okay with getting turned down and, being relentless to go be the official moving partner of, this location, that location, but also, cold calling out to realtors. And in addition to that, cold call walking into apartments, storage, assisted living, which it's a lot of effort. And obviously you have to continue to go into these locations to be relevant because they have leasing agents overturning and things like that. So I think by those 2 avenues, we really made an early stamp, and we kind of found our early pathways between us. So, it was for both of ours first times running a business. So, finding our footing to not just step on each other's toes and do what we do best. That was a work in progress, but I think that's where we kind of found our footing early on, and we had some good early results.
I love that. I mean, there's something like kind of sadistic, but also just like I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but just I don't know, that early grind, that early hustle of just going and trying to find the business and create something out of nothing, out of an idea, and pounding the pavement, getting on a first name basis with the leasing agents and the property managers and finding out who their regional managers are and building those strategic connections. I remember in the early days in Gainesville, we did the same thing with a big property management company that had all the student housing in town. And when we landed a deal to do all of their apartments, both the installs, they were furnished apartments, and every year they needed removals and installs of the old furniture. And some of them would get all new furniture in hundreds of units. And I just remember that first time they gave us a chance. And then the second year, they gave us another chance with some more work. And then, the third, fourth year, we ended up taking over all that business. And then we matured to a point where we realized that's not even really our ideal kind of work. It's, lower margins doing that haulaways and those installs at those places. And we were able to be a lot more selective with who our ideal customers were. But it's still fun to think back on those like real early days of the grinding. When you said cold calling realtors, that kind of stood out to me because, we do a lot of the same stuff. I tell my team to make one cold outreach a day. And if we have 10 people in the office doing that, that's, 300 working days a year, that's 3,000 cold outreaches a year. And if even a small percentage of that ends up becoming a long-term referral partner, it pays dividends. But tell me a little bit about your strategy with like, pounding the pavement, hitting up those apartments and cold calling realtors. What were you saying to them when you'd reach out?
So I think reaching out with a perspective of what's in it for me, for the realtor, for the agent. So what kind of speaks to them. So number one, they're pumped up. They got a listing. They have a client. They want the client taken care of, and they want to ultimately, if they're going to refer somebody over that's going to take great care of their client. That's not going to add to the stress level of moving, that's not going to not show up, and that's not going to fall back on them looking as a poor experience. I think where we could, offer value to the agents is like, hey, do you mind if do you have some upcoming open houses that we can sponsor for you? Bring the cookies, water, drop off some, brochures. Great. That's an easy way to get in. And then you're ingraining ourselves with the realtor as well as, all the people that could potentially be walking through there, asking how we can deliver packing supply kits to upcoming listings, and just, even now having declutter promos, things that speak to the agent. And then obviously once we get that lead, that's our audition. And I think the big thing for us is being systematic on when we do get that lead, the touch points to the realtor, letting the realtor know that, hey, we got your referral, because sometimes they'll handle out our information. They never even know if their client actually called us or not. And I think everyone, or a lot of people, they like to have the answer. They like to hear like, oh, they did reach out to you. I knew they would. That's so great. And so that's an opportunity for us to reach out and let them know that they gave us a referral that actually reached out, and also ask for another referral. We do a really good job of sharing with them when the job was booked as well as we share the follow-up feedback with them. And so all these are touch points, which over the years, the realtors get accustomed to how we continually update them, and we prove ourselves as on the communication. But every one of those touch points is another opportunity to stay relevant and not let them forget about us for the next listing that they get. Apartments and those kind of deal. It's a little bit different strategy because whereas the realtor is like their own business, the apartment or the assisted living community, they can have turnover with the leasing agents. So we have a similar strategy, but we actually drop in there. We'll bring in them coffee, whatever we can. So if they refer us this week, we actually have a thank you route the next week where our, business development team that's monitoring those accounts is actually stopping in and thank you so much for this referral, and in person letting them know whether or not we scheduled the move, making sure that we have the correct understanding of the move-in procedures at these different communities. And again, what speaks to them. We want to take great care of your property. We want to make sure when our team's here, they're making use of the elevator the correct way, things that speak to them. So between those two avenues, there's a bulk of leads there without even reaching out to new realtors necessarily.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best ways to grow a business because it costs next to nothing. Are you doing anything in terms of like a referral fee kickback to anybody like that? I know we use a program called Snowball now, which is a relatively new technology to where it automatically pays out people that use your affiliate link $50. And we've seen some really good success and a solid ROI with that program. And it goes out to past customers as well as people that sign up and opt into it from our referral program. We've got lists of realtors that we can basically cold text and it'll send them an affiliate link and they can get $50 anytime they refer us, or 20 free boxes to the person that they refer. Are you doing anything like that to incentivize it, or is it all just, provide a great service? Because I know you talk to a lot of realtors and they say, I don't care about the $50. I just want to make sure my client's taken care of. Like, what's your strategy there?
Yeah, good point. I've heard of the company. Maybe you've heard of this little event in Florida. It's called the Moving Titans event.
So that's where I found them. They came to our last one.
Well, we had a booth for our long distance moving partnership program right next to Snowball, of course. So that's where we met them. And yes, we do use Snowball and they are excellent. So, kind of under the same strategy for, those word of mouth and previous customers, certainly after 17, 18 years, there's such a Rolodex of previous customers that, just even staying in front of them properly, like you don't even have to go find new clients if we just do a great job with the ones that we've already got. So Snowball has been great, just kind of outsourcing that and doing a great job of the follow-up. And yes, with the realtor relationships as well, of not only updating them with leads, but handling the payout referral fee. So that they're excellent company.
So you're actually able to provide some realtors some leads then?
Yeah. So we have realtors linked up through the same program as well with Snowball. So they're reaching out directly to our business development reps, but we also have them linked up through Snowball as well, so they can also submit leads that way.
Nice. Yeah, I always am trying to think of ways to provide more value for realtors, because oftentimes the moving company comes towards the end of the transaction or even after the transaction. And by then, if a realtor is going to stick their neck out and refer us, it's going to be the last thing the customer remembers in most cases, because they probably just closed on their house and now the mover's coming in. And it's, realtors get hit up all the time by movers, mortgage brokers, home inspectors, all these different businesses that kind of revolve around that real estate ecosystem. And I'm sure every mover goes and says, yeah, we're going to do a great job for your customer. But a lot of realtors are really wary about vouching for somebody in the moving industry, because everybody has a horror story in the moving industry, whether you have one yourself or know somebody who has. And I've met a lot of realtors that at first they're very leery and hesitant to recommend any moving company because they may have been burned in the past or heard the stories. And, eventually you build that trust and they give you a chance and you exceed their expectations and they continue that relationship. But I've been always trying to find ways to get through and kind of get attention from the realtors that I don't already have a relationship with. And a few of the ideas that we've done, we'll leave branded boxes in the brokerage that they can take to listing appointments as a leave behind to kind of stand out, to try to win that if a customer is interviewing multiple realtors. Of course, we'll do the lunch and learn presentations at their offices. We've got them on Snowball. We actually just hosted a big hometown Titan retreat that was heavily focused on giving realtors exposure. But what's in it for me's have you found that you've gotten good reception from, and at least gotten a realtor's attention to give you a shot?
Yeah, I think so. We attend a lot of these events, so there's HomeSmart, Remax, Keller Williams, Berkshire Hathaway, Realty Executives, and multiple other ones out here in the Phoenix market. And so our team is constantly attending these events and speaking to a wide variety of agents. But you can only list so many things that resonate. So I think things that have seemed to work for us are when an agent's doing an open house, there's a lot that goes into that. Setting up the signs and scheduling the open house and making sure that the house is clean and so even the little thing like, hey, we're going to provide the cookie tray, the water, the snacks and everything. Don't worry about that. Mark that off your to-do list. Let us know what open time the open house is. We'll be there 15 minutes prior to drop everything off. That speaks to the agent, and it's an easy in to let them know that we're reliable. We can prove ourselves at least to be able to be there when we say we're going to be there. Drop off some materials. So that's something that's resonated. Something that's resonated that we've implemented recently is this declutter promo. So again, this is something that the agent shares with their client that really is a selling point for the agent of why they should be the listing broker. But what we're providing is basically one storage vault and storage until the house sells for $250. I can't take all the credit for that idea either, because I heard that one from our friends over at Big League Movers in Tennessee. So thought that was a fantastic one.
Love
and
that.
So do you make any money on this storage in? No. $250, but we're out there. We're able to, again, demonstrate to not only the agent, but the client that we're a valuable service in how we operate. So we take our storage container out on site because that's how we do it with a flatbed. We do our inventory of all the items, padding, wrapping, bringing them back. It's just one vault of items. We're bringing them back, and then we're just going to store it until the home sells. Theoretically, the client could handle the move out with themselves in a U-Haul truck or a different company, but that's not typically what happens. And also, if the client, there's a lot of times we're like, well, can I just store some extra items at the same time? And now we're getting into more traditional pricing for additional vaults beyond the one vault. So that's been a real benefit for us to work that angle. And then, the packing supply kit drop-offs, we offer that too. So they have a new listing, we'll go put a basic packing supply kit drop off right at the client's house.
I love that. And that must have been Stephen Reed. He's always coming up with good ideas. He's full of them. He's taught me a ton about just all the different marketing strategies. He truly is a hometown dominator up there in Memphis. But I've not heard that one. That's really good. That's a really good idea. I love the storage vault idea. What would you tell yourself in those early days that now on how to get business? How would you expedite your growth if you had to start all over again in today's economy with some of the technologies that are available now?
Man, it's I think my biggest advice to myself then and now even is to be patient on the growth and focus on the quality. And making sure that quality is first and foremost prior, before we get ahead of our skis and, want to build the heck out of revenue. And, we've had to go, we've grown fast and then gone back to clean up quality and do damage control before. And if I had to go back, and even now that we're very mindful of, is as we grow, letting quality grow at the same rate.
Yeah, I like to say that that's really the best way to grow a business, is to just consistently provide that 5-star service every single time, because not only are you saving the headaches of upset customers and the expense of claims and the expense of having to send a crew out to fix what they might have done, but it turns that move into a multiplier effect, and people start to tell their friends, family, coworkers, and colleagues about you and their neighbors, whenever somebody that needs to be moved, because people love to be somebody who discovered a great service or discovered a great product, and they like to be, that person, but they really have to believe in it if they're going to put their name on a recommendation. And it's in a business like moving, if somebody finds a great mover where there's so many fly-by-night guys or chucking a trucks out there that don't provide that consistent level of service, then it allows you to stand out. And I think that is, I mean, you don't have to pay for marketing. When you do a great job, not only do you save money, but you're getting free marketing from the cheerleaders and the raving fans that you're creating out on the job site. What are you doing to provide that great service in terms of like training or just, operations management?
Sure. So I think I'll start with what our mission statement is. So we call our mover drivers, we call them mover athletes. So the company name's Muscular Moving Men. Goes hand in hand. They're mover athletes. Our mission statement is to be the team that mover athletes want to play for. So contrary to what some folks would think, it's not about the growth, it's not about the revenue. It's starting with taking care of our people and making sure that this is a place that guys want to be at and gals want to be at, and that people, when they are at a job that they actually want to be at, they typically do a better job at that job. And if we do that, we're taking care of customers. If we take care of customers, growth will take care of itself. So how do we be a place that people actually want to be at? So we start with culture. So we definitely have built quite an infrastructure at this point. So I would say right from onboarding, it's pretty streamlined. So coming in here and getting a tour of the facility and making sure that this is a good fit, that this a good fit for the mover athlete as well as us, and that our core values of win as a team, do the right thing, and being relentlessly never satisfied worked for them and us. So, after onboarding, that this is a good fit. We're turning them over to our in-house trainer. So it's not going right out into the field. There's actually a day of, going through Trainual. There's a couple days of in-office training. We have a training truck in the warehouse. So we're, listening to our team out there of giving us essentially the basics of, how to pad and wrap, how to fold a pad, some basics before we're actually sticking them with a crew. And then you have a crew that's, complaining like, oh, you're always sticking me with brand new guys. So we're doing our best to listen to our team there, to give them some basics. Culture, there's a gym in the warehouse. There's, we utilize Slack really well. So Slack has allowed us to, be a platform that everyone can communicate in. Everyone's bought into the overall company success. So that's starting from, everyone's ingrained. We're one team, one family here. And then I think being systematic from the client experience and operations flow of making sure that there's consistent touch-ins with the client. So, finding the business, booking the job, that's only where the battle starts. So our client experience team is checking in the day after of a booking, making sure that, order for services signed, answering additional questions. We are, of course, doing confirmation calls day prior to a local or a long distance move. And then we are doing what are midday calls during a date of service, checking in, seeing how the job is going. We're doing a follow-up call the day after the move to get feedback, and all these opportunities to get reviews at the same time. So the question, I believe, was how we're ensuring quality. And so I think the biggest piece is, communication is what we hear from clients as well as our mover athletes and team. And, Slack has certainly helped us communicate internally a lot. And we're doing everything that we can to constantly communicate with our clients. And it also allows us to identify when there is an issue, we can get all over resolution. So that's some of the stuff that we're doing.
I love that. And communication is so important. And it's so, in today's day and age, there's so many Gen Zers and even millennials and even some older people now that they don't want to pick up the phone and just talk to somebody. And I feel like that is still the best way to make sure that everybody is on the same page. I think, Slack, we use GroupMe for pretty much kind of the same group messaging capabilities. I know a lot of people do use Slack. I personally really haven't ever messed with it, but we've also got everybody in our company has a iPhone. So at least on our operations side and our sales side, so our admin side, I should say, we all have iPhones. So we got several different iMessages for operations, sales, the entire company, excluding movers. We use GroupMe for movers so that we can moderate those conversations and, remove people and add people as necessary. And just, it's it would be a little too much to put the movers on an entire company group thread. But I always just preach over communicate. It prevents and solves so many problems when you're over communicating with your customer with confirmations and check-ins leading up to the day of the move, and then following up during and after the move, doing a spot check and talking with them face to face, the guys confirming their shifts, the week that you schedule them, and then the night before, and then the morning of if they're, running a minute late. And then throughout the day, just keeping track, making sure everybody has what they need and that everything's going well. It just prevents so many problems. And I see this not only in my moving company, but my other businesses. Every single time there's a problem, it usually has a root in miscommunication. And that's such a key thing. And I know you mentioned Trainual. We use Trainual too. And then of course we've got our Tighten Up training on Lightspeed. And right before this call, I actually had a long call with Brad Lee, who's the founder of Lightspeed. And I just discovered that we're now going to be able to put everything from our Trainual into Lightspeed and basically put it all into one platform. But I'm just curious, with your use of Trainual, how do you have that set up? Is there like a Trainual for every single role? Do you have new mover hire, driver hire, all the way down through operations, or is it videos? Is it written out? Like what's the Trainual look like? Most of you have heard me talk about Moversville and the power of their email marketing service that has helped us increase leads by over 112% over the last year. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services and lists like insurance providers, softwares, equipment suppliers, marketing sources, and much, much more. The best part? This resource is free. Go check out Moversville Connect today by going to moversville.com and clicking Connect. That's moversville.com and click Connect and discover the world of Moversville beyond email.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. So there's a different Trainual for different, all the different positions here. It's kind of a heavy lift to get it integrated, I would say, and it's a never-ending update. We're constantly updating this, and then we have basically a VA that's assisting with the oversight of making sure that it's updated, and if we're updating processes, training, that we have those updates going in. I think. Is our Trainual perfect? Absolutely not. Could we be doing a lot more? No, most definitely. But I think, where it's been really beneficial when I used it specifically for the example of the mover athletes that are starting is just setting the tone that when they come in here, that they're coming into a structured process, that they're not coming in and having a uniform shirt thrown at them and go hop on the truck for the day and learn as you go on the way. There is more of an actual systemized flow. And I think even for guys that have come from different moving companies, it's like a wake up call a little bit when they come in here like, oh, whoa, this is not what I'm accustomed to. This is going to be a little bit more systemized, and the expectations are going to be a little bit higher here.
Yeah, I actually just wrote a blog post the other day about the importance of structure in your culture. And that as entrepreneurs, a lot of times, we thrive on chaos. A lot of us, at least, we all have a touch of ADD, but most employees get a job and don't go start their own business because they need that structure, and it legitimizes your company when there is a consistent onboarding and training program for every single person that comes through your door versus companies that just throw guys out on a truck their first day, throw them a t-shirt without any formal, vetting or any kind of, briefing or SOP or handbook or anything. And you're just essentially setting yourself up for failure. And that, might work sometimes, if guys pick up things quickly, if they're working with a good guy and they've got a good attitude, but it just really legitimizes your entire company's culture when there's that clear playbook and, everybody has gone through the same process and the same roadmap, and they've gotten the same training, and they all know what they're supposed to be doing in their assigned role. But that kind of brings up a question, what's your role in the company on a day-to-day? I mean, a $20 million company, or I guess multiple entities potentially, at this stage, 17 years in, where do you kind of fall into the mix? It looks like you're in your office right now. How do you basically run your day-to-day?
Yeah. So, my title, which titles don't necessarily mean a whole lot, but I'm the CEO. So a CEO can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people at a lot of different companies. But for me, I come to the office every day. I like being in the mix. I like feeling the operation and feeling the structure and hearing right outside my door what's happening. But it is a lot to keep eyes on between a local residential big interstate presence, a commercial presence, and a new restoration side of the business. A lot of people running around, a lot of structure. I'll say that we utilize EOS and traction, and that has helped us keep an eye on a lot of things. But it's a lot, and I'm actually for the first time in 17 years hiring an executive assistant this week. So met a great candidate, and I'm really excited about that to just help me with calendar management, time management, and things like that. But where do I spend my time? I'm hopping, I spend quite a bit of time overseeing the long distance interstate side of the business, which has really been great for us. Luckily, I have a third partner named Jim, who we brought in to run our commercial side of the business. And he really oversees all of that. So I don't have to spend too much time there. I have Justin, again, my original partner, who oversees the business development and outward side of the business. So I don't have to put too much time into marketing. So I'm truly kind of in the operation, overseeing, fulfillment of all this business that my other two partners are kind of fielding.
Love that. And if you haven't already read it, there's a really good book by Dan Martell called Buy Back Your Time. And he's got a great podcast too that I strongly recommend as you go through that hiring process with your onboarding process with your executive assistant. It's just got a lot of really good things, because one thing I realized when I first hired an assistant is I wasn't sure what I would have them do. Right. I had this I knew I needed help, but I didn't know with what or what I could delegate on my plate personally. And I'm still learning. I'm still an ongoing journey of trying, how can I optimize this person that's on my team? And, she helps with emails, she helps with scheduling, things like podcasts and getting it sent over to our VAs to do the production. She helps with just helping keep my life organized, making appointments for me. A lot of other things involved with that, taking notes during meetings. But it definitely helps to have a clear picture, because a lot of entrepreneurs need an assistant. And Dan Martell in that book talks your very first hire as an entrepreneur should be an assistant. It took me, probably 13 years. It's taken you 17 years. Right. Most entrepreneurs don't do it because they're afraid to kind of give up the reins on what they do, or they're just afraid what they're going to do if they don't have to be busy anymore. But that's really where you can do a lot of the strategic stuff. Do you have kind of an idea what you're going to be having your assistant help you with once he or she is fully onboarded?
Yeah, I great advice on the book. I remember hearing Tommy Mello mention that at your Titans event as well. So that certainly resonated with me, that book. But I think at a minimum, just being present in our L10 meetings, which is again part of EOS and everything, but sharing with her, my initiatives and where I need to spend my time. Looking at my calendar, there's only so many hours in the day, and I'm trying to maintain some work-life balance. So where do all these meetings fit in? And if I can't be here, is something as little as being at morning dispatch, which I think is a very important time. That sets the tone for the whole day. Be my eyes and ears here a couple times a week. Let me know what it feels like and what's happening. Being in certain meetings that I can't be in, and sure, there's AI solutions that could probably give me a breakdown of what happened in a meeting, but I want you to be in this meeting and tell me what it feels like. How are people interacting? Is it productive? And I think that's where it kind of starts for me, is just helping with my time management, my calendar management, being present at the places that I can't be everywhere at once, keeping me on track. And then the little initiatives that are adding up on my to-do list, helping me actually get some of these accomplished.
Yeah, no doubt. And you mentioned earlier, you talked a little bit about VAs, and I'm curious to hear, what the structure of your org chart looks like for your company and how VAs fit into the mix on things.
Sure. So I think, we've been utilizing VAs now for, maybe a year and a half, something like that. And, that's a work in progress always to integrate them. For me, it started with my friend Grant up at Eco Moving in Washington, and who's really integrated them at a very high level. But, we now have about 15 VAs in the organization spread out through every department. From the onboarding training, which again, we utilize Trainual a lot for, they're all part of their respective departments. You have the safety VAs, the accounting VAs, the operations, client experience, commercial and everyone's in their own department answering to their respective manager. I think Slack, again, has been fantastic for us to integrate these VAs as part of the team. So they're just communicating every day with the rest of the team as well. And, I would say one of the things that I'm proudest of that we do is safety. So I'll just use this example of like the inward and outward facing cameras that we have in the trucks. And, we all, there's this GPS technology. It's always really slick when it's sold to us. And, we didn't utilize all the capacity for the longest time. So, the inward facing camera, for example, it monitors distracted driving, excessive yawning, even you have tired drivers, all this kind of stuff. But who's going to manage that and who's going to monitor that? So, we have one of our 2 safety VAs that's monitoring that every day, and we're sharing these inward and outward facing cameras on Slack. So, and it's not just to beat our guys over the head with, hey, you're doing bad. We're celebrating the good stops, the good driving. And so the videos are actually shared, and we're tagging the drivers on Slack. So there's a subliminal thing here that, yes, we're celebrating the positive, but they know that we know everything that's happening in these vehicles. And then also because we celebrate the positive, when we do share it, hey, no seatbelts on, need to have some areas for improvement here. It's not us just always beating them over the head, because everyone's integrated on Slack on the various channels. All the mover drivers can see that. I'm like, oh man, well, we better stay in line. They're watching these. Just like our accounting VA, or one of our accounting VAs, when the local residential team is calling in their bill for the day to go over the charges, they're calling the VA in accounting to go over the day's charges, and the accounting VA is sending the link to the customer to collect the credit card payment. And so everyone's integrated there. And those are just a couple of examples. But VAs have been great.
Yeah, we've recently brought on several to our team, and part of actually, it's funny you brought up Grant. Part of what spurred that was hearing Grant's presentation at one of the Smart Moving webinars recently, and I think he mentioned he had like 26 of them or something, and it sounded like he used a lot of VAs for inside sales. Do you do any inside sales? Do your VAs handle any inside sales work?
We've tinkered with it. We've tried it out, and we don't currently do a sales team for on the VA side. They support the sales team, but the actual quoting and booking of jobs is from our internal team. And I don't know that it will always be like that. And the one thing I would say to that is we do a high volume of interstate quoting, and there's just a little bit more to that, more selling, especially when it comes to it booking and quoting interstate moves that are outside of our market of Phoenix. So it's pretty far removed from the order taking that a smaller local residential move may be. So we just haven't found that blend yet to be able to really integrate a good sales VA. But not to say we won't get there soon.
Yeah, we're pretty optimistic. We recently expanded our office hours to 24/7, and we took on. Right now, we've got 4 VAs in the sales department to assist with that those after hours calls as well as overflow, and we're working with them on a daily basis to get them trained up to basically serve as our inside team. Because one thing that I've discovered, and this has been a little bit of a challenge, is that every time we try to hire an inside salesperson strictly to just basically quote 2 bedrooms and less local moves and just field calls and set up on-site estimates for our outside people, is the commission opportunities and the budget for what we would realistically expect them to book over the course of a year just aren't that high. I think, if we're trying to keep our sales department budget at less than 8%, they'd have to book basically $500,000 to $600,000 just to make like a $40,000 a year salary at 8%. And it's hard to get a locally based good person with a good attitude for really what comes down to about like $18 an hour, not counting any commission whatsoever. So potentially less than that if you were going to give them some kind of a commission. So I've been trying to navigate that space. How do we get that inside phone coverage, especially as we get into our busy season, with a living wage for a local person? And it's been tough because they come in, it might be an entry level person. Maybe we'll promote a mover that seems to have good people skills into that role. And then they go out and they see our on-site guys making 6 figures because they're booking big jobs and they're getting the interstate jobs and they're getting commission opportunities and all this stuff. And they start to just want to go do that.
Yeah.
And in theory, you have a level of or a process to advancement, a path to advancement. There we go. That would allow them to get to that level. But at the end of the day, you only have a need for so many outside people because you're only getting so many opportunities for jobs that would require an outside estimate. And we like to get somebody out in front of somebody if it's 3 bedrooms or larger or an interstate move, because legally you have to do either an estimate or a virtual on interstate moves. And 3 bedrooms and up, we want to get more accurate with those estimates so they go smooth, but also getting face to face with the customer increases our chance of booking it. So really the only opportunities are for those smaller jobs. And so now we're like, kind of exploring these VAs. We just hired several. We've just basically wrapped up their training over the last couple of weeks, and they're going live to give us that 24-hour coverage, because we know our SEO is going to improve if we can be open. We're going to show up in the map packs after hours. And even if customers aren't planning to get a call or make a call, they're still going to be submitting leads because they'll come to our website. Then we'll be able to retarget them. And there's a lot of reasons, but before, I don't want to go on too many tangents here, but how have you navigated that inside sales department to make sure that you've got adequate coverage, but still be able to pay a competitive wage if you're not using VAs to handle those types of calls?
Yeah, I experienced the same thing that you just described there, Wade. So like, we bring in folks to start on these smaller locals, but they see the rest of the team booking these bigger interstate shipments, and people kind of turn their nose up a little bit at the locals, which is it's a bread and butter, and it keeps the crews working every day. So I think VAs could be a great solution on that one. I don't have the answer that we're currently doing. We currently have our team doing a blend of interstate and local. So our team, and it's about 6 people with a support person, is booking both the large and the small jobs right now.
Gotcha. Oh yeah. And that's basically what we were running through with the winners. We had mostly our like 2 core salespeople, and then we had some overflow with, flown over to our operations team, some of our other administrative employees. But it's just been hard to retain like a strictly inside person. So, I'm curious to hear, if you find a solution or if anybody listening wants to reach out with a good solution. But I'm very optimistic. We found some really good VAs. We work with Hey Lou. We work with some people that we found on Upwork that are based out of the Philippines. Is that where yours are, or what country are you finding good ones in?
Yeah, all of ours are from the Philippines at this point. So, I think that's just kind of where we've landed, and not that we're married to that, but that just happens to be where all of ours are for right now.
Yeah, I think, that seems to be a very common place. I've heard of people that have South American VAs. I actually just saw something with South African VAs that are supposed to be pretty good. But the big challenge I've seen with the Philippine VAs is the time zones. It's 12 hours difference for at least Eastern time over there. But I mean, you can get a very intelligent person with barely any accent. And a lot of people that live in the US have accents too, we're a melting pot here. So, and I've been very happy with Hey Lou and the ones that we found over there. I think the hardest part is coordinating the time zones, but a lot of them are willing to do it. So it's not a terrible lift once you can find the right people. I actually just heard something today on the radio that North Korea is getting into the VA space, but it's like a national security threat. And so working with a company like Hey Lou, you make sure that they're vetted and you've got, qualified people, but like, I'm sure that there's platforms that, whether it's Upwork or something else, and I can't speak, to Upwork specifically, but where there's like a North Korean, security threat type thing, and they're posing as VAs from another country. And it's just something to watch out for. Just wanted to relay that thing that I had never heard that until this morning. You don't want somebody to come in. You just got to be careful when you're hiring somebody that you can't meet face to face. And that's why it's good to work with an agency. And Hey Lou does this podcast too. They do a great job. But let's flip over a little bit to some of the other service providing offerings that you guys have. You've got the commercial business based out of DC, and you've got the pack out business, Elite Content and Restoration. And you've also got a program where you work with other moving companies to do long haul, type jobs, interstate work. I guess let's start with the commercial business in DC. Why'd you pick DC?
The commercial business is based out of Phoenix, where we're based out of as well. The DC market just is a really great market to be in for commercial moving. So we're branching out there as well. But, it started, I guess, back in 2015. And, we were an agent for National Van Lines and met somebody during that experience that, put me onto IOMI, International Office Moving Institute, and Ed Katz. Went through that. Good old Ed Katz, and, went through that and, got the basics of going through IOMI certification, but, realized that we really want to make a lot out of this. Somebody that can be a mile deep, inch wide on commercial moving. So, through a couple introductions, we got linked up to Jim Stevens, who worked for the largest commercial moving provider in DC at that point, as one of their top guys. And, was able to get him out here in 2019. And over the course of 6 years, he has led that charge to build out the M3 Commercial Moving and Logistics brand. It's a separate financial statement, separate entity. There's shared resources here, in Phoenix. Funny story, I guess. We were through a different relationship, we were the official moving provider for the AAF, the Alliance of American Football League. So we were handling all their commercial moving of all their teams around the country. Right up until that went out of business. And that was Jim's first job, basically, when he came here. And so that was a great start. And then we did the XFL, and that was till that went out of business for COVID. But so that was a good start. And then but just his knowledge that he brought, and commercial moving is a totally different art form. to do it really well when we're into office and industrial moving, cubicles, IT, all the opportunity that's there, the opportunity that once you get these relationships that you can start facilitating their moves all around the country, if not the world. So the great margins on it. It's been such a great addition to our business to maximize the resources we have, and then again, just being able to branch back out into DC where there's just so much in the way of office and industrial moving, and again, that's was Jim's original home market. So that's been fantastic. We've had attempts to go to other markets on the residential side that we probably did too early. Those didn't work out. So we've certainly learned from some of those experiences and being thoughtful as we get going. And that's, some knowledge that we're now utilizing for our restoration division, which is also based here in Phoenix. So that's Elite Contents and Restoration, and following the same game plan that we used with M3, that we've now found a experienced individual named Eddie that's leading that charge. So this is into pack out, pack back, storage, that side of the restoration business, billing to insurance companies, everything that kind of goes into that. So again, being able to use a lot of the same resources that we have, but going into another area that is very good margins, so that we're less and less reliant on the local residential moving. The interstate side, I kind of geek out on the logistics of all that. So I mentioned that back in 2015, we were an agent for National Van Lines. Being a van line agent wasn't something that was a great fit for us long term, but it was educational on how to bill off of tariff pricing, operate tractor trailers. So, through our moving partnership program now, where we're partnered up with, moving partners around the country, we've essentially been able to build out our interstate side of the business. We're operating about 15 tractor trailers currently all around the country with consolidated shipments, picking up and dropping off all around the country. With most times it has nothing to do with Phoenix. And our pricing is competitive with any van line, but we're offering this value of being an independent moving company still. So still get the really high level of service, and it's a great win-win-win for our partners that are referring the job, so that they can get referral fees, and then it's a win for the clients that's not getting put into a broker or a van line system, and that we're able to service them from beginning to end as an independent still.
Nice. I like that. I know we've talked about that before and worked with you guys on a couple things. So just so the audience understands, like that program, basically you have, say, maybe it's a large job, 20,000 pounds going from, Tampa to Denver, Colorado. And then we say, hey, we're going to price ourselves out of this. That's going to take 3 trucks to go all the way out to Denver and back, tie up 3 trucks during our busy season. We would basically reach out to you at Muscular Moving Men, or not maybe you specifically, but somebody on your team, say, hey, we got this big job. Here's the inventory on it. Here's the contact information. Is that how does it work exactly? Are we quoting this job out and then sending it over to you, and then you go and fulfill it? Or are we telling the customer that, hey, we have a partner that does this kind of work, they'll quote it out for you, or combination of the two somehow?
Kind of a combination of the two. So I think we're just another tool in our partners' toolkit. So we have a lot of partners that do a lot of long distance moving themselves on box trucks, and we have some partners that do no long distance moves at all. We have partners that will, come with that $20,000 or 20,000 pound quote and have 2 different service options that we're, telling the client that we have this premium level of service where it's guaranteed pickup, guaranteed drop-off dates. It's going to be on box trucks. There's going to be a premium in price. Or we have our moving partner that's going to be a more competitive, or we'll say a more economical price, but there's pickup and delivery windows, and it's a consolidated trailer where the items would go on a truck with other folks. So there's kind of different options there, but the secret sauce is really in the introduction of us either way. That we're the trusted partner. And I would say it's not just the massive 20,000-pound shipment. It's just as easily the 1-bedroom apartment that's going from Tampa to Denver. So that our average long distance move is about $8,000 to $9,000, but just as many of those are comprised of the $4,500 and $5,000 shipment that's going clear across the country. So to that example, Tampa to Colorado, Tampa to California, person saying I have a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment. So this is a 3,000-pound or less shipment. For a lot of our partners to send a box truck that far, it's not even going to make financial sense. But for us, that's a $5,000 move. And that's, a referral fee going back to our partner as well on a lead that they couldn't otherwise service. So there's really no origin or destination we can't service, no shipment that's too big, too small that we can't service. So, we're a great solution there. So we really have the two referral options. It's Muscular Moving Men, so I certainly want to keep it fitness and sports oriented. So we have the handoff, which is the straight referral fee where we book it from beginning to end, or we have the forward pass where the partner books it, and then we have a system where they quickly have our cost and they're marking up our cost. So on the forward pass, the partner would book the job, and depending on the shipment, may go ahead and pick it up and bring it back to their warehouse, and we're picking it up from their warehouse and delivering it out, or the handoff where we're taking it over and we're going to coordinate booking it, picking it up direct from residence and delivery.
Gotcha. What are do you ever run into issues where the customer say they call us, maybe they use us locally in the past or they've heard great things. Is there ever any pushback if we were to say, we work with this partner, and whether we quote it out and do the handoff, or whether we send you the customer's info or connect you with the customer and do the forward pass? I love that, by the way. Like how do you overcome that potential hesitation where they're like, oh no, I wanted to work with you, I don't know who this other company is? What's the rebuttal to that?
So it's really and this is where we have partners that do a great job and have great results. And, I'll say this. So we're pretty proud of this. We paid out over the last 12 months, we paid out about $500,000 to moving partners and referrals. So,
wow.
So, that's, a win out to our partners for leads that they otherwise weren't going to be able to service. And obviously it's a win for us because it's business we would never even want to see. And without that, we couldn't be operating interstate the way that we are. And it starts with that intro. So like you said, Wade, the partner called you because the client called you because they want to use you. But just, there could be a pass through or a handoff that is not going to get results. Like, hey, we're not a great fit, but I know a guy in a company. Can I give you their number? That we don't get great results like that. Where we do get great results is we're not going to be the best fit for you, but we do have a trusted moving partner that's an independent company just like us that's going to handle your move from beginning to end with the same level of service. But they do consolidated shipments where they can pair multiple clients going to similar parts of the country, so the pricing is more competitive. If it's okay with you, I would like to either do a warm transfer of you right now or share your information, and they're going to reach right back out to you. So that in itself, talking us up, and some partners are better than others. But now the client, they can take that, and then it's on us. And that's where, we have this sales team that's really schooled up at doing virtual walkthroughs and talking interstate lingo, and not, and providing a price that's competitive with everyone or anyone, that we see good results there.
Amazing. That's I like that a lot. And it's, I just dealt with that yesterday, not in moving, but I needed some work done on my boat. And I called a company that I've worked with before on a smaller boat. And I, needed a trailer, and I don't have a trailer. I keep it at a marina. So he's like, you know what? I'm not the best fit, but I work with this other guy who does the mobile visits, the mobile repairs on site. He's great. Call this number. And so I called him, and, I felt good about it because I trusted this guy. So if they trust you, or if they trust us, to call us and come out there. I think that honestly builds a lot of trust with the customer, because you're not trying to basically get them to pay too much with your company, or you're being straight up. You're saying, hey, we really don't specialize in this type of thing. I'm happy to do a walkthrough for you. We work with a great trusted partner. And, I just want to make sure you get taken care of at the end of the day. And exactly like what you just said, where you can basically potentially still get referrals from that customer, even though you're referring them over to somebody else. They're going to be very pleased and trustworthy of you now, because you gave them a solution that's like the best fit for them. I think that's a really good approach. And I'm going to be talking to my team a little bit more and keeping this program front of mind, because we only run straight trucks. So when we have something going out west, or and it's 1 or 2 bedrooms, or coming from New York or whatever, and it's real small, I mean, a lot of times we're just like, here's what it would cost us to do it. We know it's too much, or we don't probably say it that way, but we do know it's too much a lot of the time. But it's what we would have to charge if we were doing it. It's good to have those additional options, to where you take care of the customer. You're a trusted company. They feel good about it because they already trusted you. Now they trust you more because you found that solution, and it's a win-win. So love that. What's the kickback, or the referral bonus, I should say, and in more polite terms, for the referral there?
Sure. Yeah. So it's 10% off the top line revenue. So, one thing that I learned from prior experiences and, van line type experiences, it was not fun not understanding how you were going to get paid. So want to just keep this so simple that if it's a $10,000 job booking, it's $1,000 going back to the partner. So we don't back out anything. It's just off the top line revenue. And I think using the same methodology that we use with realtors, that's the same way we approach with our partners. So when we get a referral, we're updating the partner the next day that we receive the lead. We update the partner when the job is booked. We share the feedback with the partner after the load, as well as the delivery of an interstate shipment. So the partner knows how we did. And then the first week of the month, like clockwork, we're sending the breakdown of all the completed work for the previous month. And we're sending out checks or ACH payments the first week of every month. So, keep it as simple as possible. And, there's other referral options there, but like, if our partners don't get paid or they're not updated, we're not going to see any more referrals, not to mention if we don't do a good job. So I think that, again, back to communication and doing what we say we're going to do is where it continues to work.
I love it. That's awesome, man. Love the communication. And like any referral program, you got to pay out the people that refer you business, or it's never going to work. That's why I love Snowball too, going back to that. And I'm not getting paid for saying this, but it automates that payout. And I think a lot of times companies have these great ideas for affiliate programs and, referral program, whatever. And they just get so busy. It's not on their priority list. All of a sudden, 6 weeks have gone by. The other person hasn't gotten paid. And most of the time, the other person's not even going to reach out and say, hey, I haven't gotten paid. They're just going to be like, I guess I won't refer any more business to that person again. Like, it's not worth their time in a lot of cases. So just because they don't say anything doesn't mean they don't feel that way. And it's really important to stay consistent with that. So I love the fact that you do that. I'm definitely going to talk to my team at our next sales huddle tomorrow about reminding them of this service. And every time they come to me with a project that we're overbidding, or it's too small, or, it's going to take 3 trucks to go, 2,000 miles away. I'm going to keep reminding them about Muscular Moving Men. Josh, how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about that program, or just connect, talk to you about some of these awesome ideas? I took several pages of notes, as I usually do. I always learn a ton on these podcasts, but how can people reach out directly if they need to?
Sure. So my direct cell phone is 480-695-6284. Call, text me, and email Josh at muscularmovingmen.com, or LinkedIn, Josh Jurhill, Jurhill.
Awesome. Josh, this has been my pleasure hosting you on your first ever podcast. I still can't believe that, but I'm honored to be the one to have done it, and looking forward to your continued success and seeing you at hopefully the next Moving Titan retreat in September. I'd love to have you back out there.
I'll be there.
All right, man. Well, have a great rest of your day and have a great summer, and we'll stay in touch.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, I want to thank the team at Hey Lou for making this show happen. Hey Lou is a virtual assistant placement and management platform owned by a fellow Moving Titan, and they provide the production for the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. But here's what's really amazing. Their virtual assistants do way more than just podcast support. From managing my crazy schedule to handling client communications, data and KPI analysis, and even sales support for a fraction of the cost of traditional salaried in-house employees, they're truly a secret weapon behind Two College Brothers growth. Curious how a VA could transform your business? Check out our referral link in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you would like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.